hey, I'm glad you're here, and not in school. They are terrible places. When someone says school, you may think learning institution, but if we look at films like The Faculty, Class of 1984, Cutting Class, Jennifer's Body, Blackcoat's Daughter, Cooties, Zombie High, Slaughter High, Student Bodies, Carrie, Teen Wolf, Redeemer, Graduation Day, Prom Night, Disturbing Behavior, or The Woods, then we know what a horror show school can be. And just today I was picking up my daughter from school and I could see the age-old dark dynamics at work. The bigger kid stalking the smaller kid while parents are completely unaware. The boys antagonizing the girls in hopes for a chase. I mean, it's a real Lord of the Flies situation out there. So what type of person would want to willingly go to this abattoir of human sufferings in math? I mean, who would want to not only teach children but also navigate the parents who can be a horror show in their own right? Who would want such a thankless job that requires so much of yourself to be done right? Well, today's guest. So let's get to it. As an ex-social worker and person in education myself, I have the utmost respect for teachers and those who give it their all. Especially this guest. He's one of the best. So, the film is Class of 1999, the guest is a teacher, and this is VHS. Hello and welcome to VHS, the podcast where each episode is about a film and the guest has the profession portrayed in the film. You can follow us and find us on Twitter and Instagram at VHUS_podcast, and please rate, review the podcast that you love. It really does make a difference. I'm your host, Dirk Marshall, and I'm joined by John Walsh, who's a teacher. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you're not a social media guy, this I know from over the years, but you are a musician. So I wanted to ask you if people could find your music anywhere.
Well, first of all, I do have two Instagram accounts.
That's
so
right.
I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe I don't post so often. Maybe I forgot the password to one of them, but I'm doubled up on Instagram. I have a Facebook.
Oh, okay.
So get your facts straight, man.
Right. I'm sorry. I usually do a background check, but I just remember previously speaking with you and you being like, I don't even know the password. And I was like, okay. Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. Like this is true. You're correct so far.
You were false John Walsh. Was that it for a while?
Well, I mean, I still am, but yes.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no. That is the current one.
Oh, that's the current one.
That's the most up-to-date one.
Okay. And just to bring it out up top, was it weird growing up with a name that was associated with the man that was catching killers and things? Did you get teased a lot, or was it not an issue?
No, I wouldn't say it was a teased thing, but I mean, I did get asked about it quite a bit, just like usually in kind of random situations, like at the bank or at the grocery store, or whenever somebody's looking at my ID. Yeah, it still comes up often.
Okay. Great. And what do you currently teach?
So I am a 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade special education teacher working in a classroom that focuses on social emotional skills first and foremost, but all of the students stay in my classroom throughout the day, except for specials like PE and a few other ones. So I teach all subjects, and yeah, 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Wow. So 3 different grades and all the subjects.
That is correct. Yeah.
I've been taking 1st grade with my daughter because of this, the distant learning situation the past year. And I don't know if I could pass 2nd grade, to be honest. So it's pretty impressive.
Well, sometimes you have to freshen up on certain concepts and skill. I just kind of relearned how to do long division with 2 divisors.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't even get open close vowels a week ago. So I get it. At the time of this recording, you can rent the film we'll be talking about, which I didn't even say yet, at Movie Madness here in Portland, Oregon. You can buy the Blu-ray from Lionsgate on their Vestra Online, or I'm sure you can stream it as well on Amazon. The film is Class of 1999. Yes, the synopsis: a principal's attempt to demilitarize his high school battle zone with android educators backfires. What a strange sentence that is. But so is the film. It's the people that are involved in the making of this, as we put it in context. We got our director, Mark L. Lester, who did Truck Stop Women, Roller Boogie, Class of '84, Firestarter, Commando, Armed and Dangerous, Class of '99, and Showdown in Little Tokyo, just to name a few. Um, Very impressive pedigree, especially with Commando in there. I don't think a lot of people know that he was involved in that. Our cinematographer is Mark Irwin. Started in 1976, has over 140 credits, including working with Cronenberg on Videodrome, Dead Zone, The Fly. He also worked on The Blob, Fright Night Part 2, RoboCop 2, and this is where it gets crazy: Dumb and Dumber, Kingpin, Old School, American Pie 2, and Scream.
Wait. The last string there.
Yeah,
Which person are you talking about?
the cinematographer.
The cinematographer. Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mark Irwin.
All right.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have guessed those last few.
I know it takes a turn where it's just like, whoa, these are like some of the biggest comedies and, Scream and stuff in there. That's impressive. Our editor is Scott Conrad, started with Messiah Evil, A Boy and His Dog, Rocky, Cat's Eye, The Wraith, and he's still going strong. Moving into actors, we have Bradley Gregg, who did Explorers, Stand By Me, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It's pretty incredible. Tracy Lind, who was in My Boyfriend's Back, which I have on this beautiful Blu-ray from Mill Creek, Fright Night Part 2, and Bugsy. Yeah, there you are. And then, of course, I have to mention Joshua John Miller, who is Angel in the movie, who was in Near Dark, River's Edge, Teen Witch, Death Warrant, Meet the Hollowheads, and many others. Of course, we have Malcolm McDowell and Stacy Keach. Both have been covered in other episodes and have vast catalogs. So we'll just move on from there. Pam Grier, we got Coffee, Sheba Baby, Bucktown, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, Jackie Brown, Above the Law, and Ghost of Mars, just to name some of the films she's done. We get into the other two teachers. We have Patrick Kilpatrick, who is 159 credits, 12 things in development. He was in Toxic Avenger, Death Warrant, Angel 4, Scanner Cop 2, Beastmaster 3, Eye of Abraxas, and Free Willy 3. So, yeah. I just bought his memoir, so I'm very excited to read that. Find that online. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the history teacher. You got to mention John P. Ryan, 5 Easy Pieces, Dillinger, Runaway Train, Avenging Force, Fatal Beauty, 3 O'Clock High, Death Wish 4. I mean, you might look at this at first and be like, why is this old guy in this movie? But he's got an incredible pedigree, and it's pretty miraculous. Also of note, Rose McGowan is in this film.
No way.
She's outside the principal's office in the hallway.
Okay.
Yeah, it's uncredited.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's press play on Class of 1999. Our credit sequence is so 90s. We're told the school is so dangerous, gangs have taken over. We see Stacy Keach with a crazy rat tail and white eye contact situation.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know that when you asked Megatech to help you with your problem, it wasn't an easy decision. You are, after all, educators. We are automation and robotic specialists.
This was his idea. He brought that to the director.
Yeah, did they ever explain that?
No.
Okay, I was waiting for it. Like maybe he's going to be a robot too, but...
Yeah, my wife sat down on the couch next to me while this was on, and she's like, oh, is he a robot? And I was like, no. And she's like, why are his eyes like that? And I was like, well, just, I don't know. And she's like, why is his hair like that? I'm like, it's just, and then when I found out that was all Stacy Keach went to the direction, was like, I'm thinking white eyes and like maybe some kind of white rat tail situation.
I loved it. And because it was a rat tail, but also, I mean, it was kind of a mullet. Like it was sort of, it was an in-betweener. Never really seen before.
So late 90s, early 2000s, Dirk had a faux hawk rat tail situation going on for a while that constantly mutated for about a decade, far too long, some would argue. And at one point, I had a really thick rat tail down the middle until one day in the shower, it touched on the other side of my neck, and I was so creeped out by it that I decided it was time to move on. So,
did you know I also had a rat tail?
I did not.
Yeah, I had a rat tail. I guess post high school, just post high school, and I had a buzz, and then somebody buzzed my head, but I left the rat tail.
So you looked like the dude from Live.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, a little bit I did.
Nice.
And it just kept growing. I think I had that thing for a solid year and a half, and it was a thin, gross thing.
Yeah.
But could curl it around my finger as like a little fidget.
So disturbing. I love it.
Yeah.
If you go to Bishop's, they call that the lightning crashes. You can get that. You can still get that.
Cody, come with me. You're getting out.
This scene is intercut with our lead Cody being released from an actual prison in Seattle, where when they were filming, they would move all the inmates out and put extras in, and then have him walk down, and then they would strike the set and put the inmates back in their cells that random people had just been inside.
This secret program, sponsored by the Department of Educational Defense and Megatech, is going to make it possible for classes to resume once again at Kennedy High School.
Malcolm McDowell classing up the meeting here. Cody is picked up by Joshua John Miller and Sonny.
Want to get high? School. School, man. You definitely want to get high. What is it? Edge, man. Best new high since skin.
I love future drug names. Those are awesome.
Yeah.
They drive into an area controlled by gangs called Razorheads. This part's super wild, and the whole section looks like Portland right now. It's one of those things where this film, when I watched it, when it came out, you're like, this is so fantastical and crazy. And now you watch it, and you're like, well, we're not that far off.
Yeah, especially what was it, this September when there was so much fire and smoke. That scene was very reminiscent.
Yeah, it almost took the fun out of it for me, where I was like, oh, this is a bummer. But then things are just exploding so crazily.
It's just so. Go ahead.
No, they filmed it in a shuttered area of Seattle, so they were just blowing stuff up for real and driving through fences because no one lived there.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That whole scene, I loved it because it made no sense. Like, why did he go the worst way possible?
Right.
Where there's just dozens and dozens of people that are just gonna apparently just start chasing you with machine guns and like flamethrowers and rocket launchers.
He makes some questionable decisions multiple times in the film where you're like, but why would you go there? Like, all right, I guess you just don't let anyone tell you what to do.
No.
What's going on? This is a free fire zone. Yeah, the cops still won't come in here, so they got their own goons now.
Maybe I should have stayed in prison.
Welcome, students, to Kennedy High School. All weapons must be surrendered before entering the school ground.
They arrive at the high school. The school now has its own like goon squad outside. It's weird because this did feel fantastical and now feels not that weird.
Your brother says you don't want to be a black card anymore.
So what if I don't?
These guys are our friends.
So, if you ain't with us, you're against us.
His old gang says they want him back, but he says he's laying low. And some of the writing in this is interesting because, Mark's thinking like, it's the future, but people talk almost like a old film noir almost. Like the gangs have like this way of talking, and it's like, it's not how people talk in the 90s. So I don't know why the future would go that route.
Yeah, it's like he took the gang lingo from like West Side Story or something, and then put it in a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, they're like, you're either with us, you're against us. And I'm like, that's not, I don't know if gangs ever really said that, but I wasn't in a gang, so what do I know? The school in the film was actually a church that they just built guard towers in front of, which I thought was interesting because it does really seem like a school, but in the commentary, the director even says like, those are all lockers we brought into this church. Like they didn't film in a school at all. Pretty amazing. We see the teachers enter the school, and the teachers entering the school, I don't know how much of 1984 you saw, but it's the same shot from that film. He numerous times in Class of 99 uses the same shots from Class of 84.
Like he reshot them in the same way?
He shot it in the same angle and the same thing happening, essentially.
Okay.
So the way the shots lined up and everything.
Interesting. Did they use the same church?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. That one's not set in Seattle. Keach dons a lab coat and enters the surveillance area. Malcolm gives the robo teachers a list of problem students, which from the look of this school is everybody.
These are our problem students. I've made sure to assign them to your classes.
We know what we're here to do, Mr. Langford. Academics will be up, discipline will be firm.
But speaking of quote unquote problem students, we both met at a behavioral school.
We did.
We both,
did.
I think, were para-educators at the time.
Yes, we were. That was probably 10 years ago now.
Yeah, it was so very long ago.
Yeah.
But man, the stories from that time, it's a pretty wild world of paraeducation, especially when you find programs like that behavioral program, which to me means so much. I would still be there if my daughter hadn't been born. I mean, she would have to have been born medically. I mean, eventually she would have had to. Anyway, but but anyway, it was a great time. I look back at it with fondness, and I'm still friends with a number of the people that I worked with via the old Facebook, as you mentioned earlier. And occasionally an old post will pop up, and I'll read it, be like, "Oh, that's right, a kid did start peeing out of anger at me and pee in his shoes, and then get mad at me because he peed in his shoes and threw his pee shoe at my face." And that was like a great day for me. But like, it's the problem solving and the nature of the whole thing. And I don't think a lot of people realize programs exist out there that serve the kind of needs that, we were there for. So I just wanted to take that trip down memory lane. And
we certainly have quite a few strange and interesting memories together at that place.
Yes.
Fucking $10.
Guess you gotta be a millionaire to go to school here.
Next, Cody meets Christy, and she has the largest earrings I've ever seen. They are
big.
Huge. They're so huge. Pam Grier enters the class, and two punks act offensively towards her, so she unleashes moderate punishment.
You mess with my boys, Miss Connors.
Which means she starts just beating them up and steps on one guy's foot until his bones crunch.
Yeah, the heel of the shoe, I think, goes through his entire foot.
I believe so. Yeah. How do you control a group of students?
Well, for the record, not that way.
Yes,
but,
correct.
But good question. I mean, that I'd say that's probably can be one of the more challenging puzzles to solve when you're in a classroom, really any classroom, when there's lots of kids running around.
What I mean, for me personally, I worked it was a special education K-3 life skills classroom. The severity of needs were more of a one-on-one situation. So the rarity of one person commanding the attention of the whole group was few and far between to meet everyone's various needs in that situation. So as the teacher, there you are, like day one with your students, like what kind of thing do you do? And does it differ between third, fourth, and fifth?
I mean, I think it does. I think, especially at a school like the one that I currently work for, the same one we were talking about a minute ago. I mean, I think probably the most important thing is just having a pulse on, and this you can't really get on day one, but just having a pulse on your students, their needs, the way they react to certain situations, and eventually being able to sort of control the environment with a level of structure and routine and predictability that gives them comfort, but also, I mean, I find comfort in those things too. So really laying the groundwork to have the most successful and safe day possible, I think is done that way. But then, I mean, when you have, maybe up to 10 or 11 students at one time, and a teacher and maybe two para-educators, like just sort of, people react and are triggered by one another really easily. So I think just being able to keep your cool, keep it positive in terms of focusing on the students who are doing well, highlighting that, and trying not to just trying to frame things in terms of what you want to see, as opposed to stop doing this, stop doing that.
Yeah.
Once you go down that wormhole, like it can get a little dicey.
Yeah, I was a big fan of replacement language, like where you're talking about what positive thing that could be happening right now versus acknowledging only the negative over and over. And I would see people get stuck in those power struggles where they're just like basically telling the kid, keep doing this because it's driving me crazy.
That's it. I think it can be kind of feel strange at first to sort of, in some ways it can maybe see or appear, it can kind of appear like you're ignoring a certain behavior, but really, if you're just trying to guide the student towards the behavior you want, there's still a level of control
And ownership on their part, right?
And ownership, and I mean, you're helping them get there. But yeah, once you start just pointing out all the things that you don't like, you're power struggling, and that just doesn't really ever get anywhere.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And then how do you do it during the pandemic? Like, you're not in a room with them anymore, so what is that like?
I didn't know if it was even going to be possible or effective in any way, but it's interesting. Like, I mean, first of all, there is a mute button, so if need be, I don't go there often, but for the good of the class, sometimes it has to happen.
Sure.
But it's interesting. Like, I mean, I only have 6 students right now. This school is pared down its class size quite a bit over the years. So, and really, most of my students have been doing really well. I mean, it took a while to get sort of our own routines going and for it to become sort of normal. But to be honest, like, I think I've been able to teach more academic skills at a faster clip than I ever have been able to in the classroom, just because a lot of the external triggers and are just not there. Obviously, the social emotional piece is like really hard and not good because they're not around a lot of people. But in terms of just crowd control over Zoom virtually, it has not been bad at all. I think the students have been just really anxious, and they want to be there just because there's not a lot else going on.
Yeah.
So, but really still the same way, just highlighting what's going well at all times, giving a lot of positive reinforcement, trying to ignore the negative stuff until you can't. And then, in Zoom, they've got breakout rooms. So if need be, we'll send a kid to a breakout room with another staff to sort of problem solve. But to be honest, it hasn't been as difficult as I thought it might be.
Okay. Will you miss that mute button, do you think, if things resume in the classroom?
Even just being here where I can't mute you
right.
is a little bit odd.
Yeah.
No, I won't miss the mute button.
Yeah.
I mean, we're back in a hybrid setting now, so a couple hours a day, and it's just so nice. It just feels so good to just be around.
Oh yeah.
The students.
My daughter is an only child, and she couldn't have taken to the hybrid situation faster. She was so ready. She's like, I don't even care what they make us do. I just need to get in there and see other children. And it's been great. It's I think it's in a way sort of rekindled. Before, she was, I think, a little stunted with the reading and stuff. It's hard sometimes to get those groundwork laid down, but now she's just like all for it. I'm like, I love it. That's so great. Good.
You new here?
Yeah, I just transferred from Nixon. My dad was a little worried about it, but he said as long as I stayed away from gang guys.
He don't want to hang out with us, does he? Just wants to kiss up to her.
Might as well stick your dick in a meat grinder.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I do. My dad's the new principal.
Well, in the hall, we learn that Christy's dad is the new principal. That's Malcolm McDowell. And then it's time for the next class, history. 2 kids are yelling at each other and telling each other to shut the fuck up, and a fight breaks out. So the guy stands up and spanks one of them while standing on the other, and then and spanks the other one. So personally, in your situation, I know that you wouldn't, I know there's not like acts of violence and everything. So my real question is actually, you see 2 kids that are having a verbal issue. What are some of the things that you think of doing before something like this?
Before spanking?
Right.
Also, for the record, never spanked.
No.
Good question. I mean, I guess like first, if it's a situation where at the moment it's not violent or nobody's being
that's what I mean,
physically unsafe. Yeah. I mean, and this would be the same maybe intervention, whatever you want to call it, if it was just one student having a hard time, just trying to get down at eye level and just empathize with both of them, because if it takes 2 to tango, if they're both mad, like they both have some reason for it. So just trying to get, and you're also just judging if one or either of them is really in a place where they can be safe, because if they can answer your question and tell you how they feel, that's that's a level of regulation that you might not see if a student is super out of control. So you're gauging the situation and you're trying to de-escalate it by just sort of probing and seeing what's going on. So just showing some empathy and not showing any favoritism, or not showing like, oh, that you're on one side or the other at first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's excellent. I just, I love all this stuff because I know the environment that you work in. And so I'm like, I don't think a lot of people realize the level of skills and thought that goes into, because it's very different than just like, look at the board. All right, you're out of here, mister. Like you see often in TV and movies and stuff, there's the amount of just thought and talk that happens to go around a child with any kind of like thing going on in their life. Could be a complete outside stressor of their home life or something. And that's something that like in the classroom, there's conversations about like, okay, so I think there might be some agitation about this. So how can we show positive supports? The big word that I loved for the 10 years I was around was antecedent. And it's not a word I'd ever heard before. And after I heard it, it changed the way I looked at everything in my life, because it's just like someone talking about like a trigger or something. It's just like, what was the thing that set off this situation? Because that's something that you can always do. If you're like, okay, why am I so stressed right now? Like, what's the antecedent to this situation? And like, and that vocabulary can help you relate to other people and stuff. So it's
I can relate to that. I think about that language in my own life, or it's kind of just been ingrained in me now. But antecedents, setting factors, these are things I think about for myself, for people in my life all the time. Everybody's coming to the table with a different experience, and everybody's going through something you don't quite know about. And it affects the way they behave towards you and others.
It's very true. And once again, no spanking.
No spanking.
Anybody else?
The class continues as the two kids lay spanked unconscious on the floor for like just a little too long. Like there's a couple like inserts of like the students' faces, and I'm like, and it cuts wide again, and they're just motionless on the ground, and I'm like, what did this robot just do?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot. I mean, there were a lot of spanks.
Yes, a lot.
I mean, just over and over in a very. I mean, he was a robot, so
it's a military grade spanking. We find out later. Spoiler alert. Oh, this is where I had inserted into my notes. The first day I was a sub paraeducator. I was in a middle school setting, and this is the first day, first moment. And I don't know if I ever told you this story, but a teenager walked in and just decked another kid straight in the face, just punched him straight in the face as hard as he could, knocking the kid into the coat closet. They didn't exchange words. There was nothing. And then we at this program, there was coaches, or they were like heavies on the middle school side, we called them, because I did anyway, because they were just Goliath men, just insane. And one of them just came in and was like, okay, walk with me. And then that diffused the situation. But I'm 5'6". These middle schoolers were taller than me, and they were throwing fists. And I was just like, this is not the environment for me. Like, I just learned really quickly, like, I barely survived this the first time around. Why am I back here again? It was a quick reminder that, just because your heart's in the right place, there's different places and different skill sets for everybody.
But I will say, although the halls, or at least once we get back in school for the whole day or whatever, there are still going to be giant men roaming around the halls of this school. But you know what? Like the true de-escalation strategies, you had all of those. Doesn't matter how tall you are, you know what I mean? Like that's the important stuff. You are the kind of people I want involved in my classroom.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I always felt like the teenage, like verbal population, I could get stuck in the cycle we were talking about earlier, where it's not that I would keep saying the thing they're doing wrong, but I might get wrapped up in some drama unnecessarily. Whereas like, my wife or someone like you, it's like you're so good and calm and centered for them to, like, at least appearance wise, which is very important, so that the person can feel like they can talk or move around and not feel threatened in the situation or judged in any way. And then, that helps people like calm down and de-escalate,
Yeah.
I don't know if I
Absolutely.
articulated that right, but
No, I totally got
whereas
it.
where I felt most at home, it was more like, watching someone non-verbally react to things and then looking for antecedents and things, which could be auditory, it could be the lights, it could be, and that kind of stuff. And
Right.
I have had people reach out to me over the years since working there. And I got to tell you, I was pretty excited to put the hat back on for a second and be like,
Yeah.
okay, let's look at antecedents, like I talked about this,
Mhm.
like, and proprioceptive like pressure points and all of that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I love that.
What the hell happened to you?
They got me in the parking lot. You fucks ran off and left me. Look at this. Yeah.
After school, they head home and their friend has been caught by the security and the history teacher, and he's been brutally maimed and his chest has been slashed. It's very odd. We see the mom, who's a junkie, played by Sharon Wyatt, who's a star on General Hospital at the time. The next day, Cody rides his motorcycle to school and stops a punk from sexual assault before being caught by the robo teacher.
You're coming with me, Cole.
Malcolm says he won't put it on the record because he technically stopped his daughter from being assaulted. It goes pretty quickly. He's released to PE where they're doing push-ups. The teacher's just really making him do push-ups.
You wrestled in prison.
Not by choice, Coach.
I wrestled in the service.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
Military.
And then Cody's made to stay after and wrestle the teacher. Humiliated kid takes a bunch of drugs and then points a gun at the PE teacher, who breaks his neck.
Yes.
Which Stacy Keach is very into. He's super excited about it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think you went a bit too far?
The boy had a gun, for God's sake. He had to defend himself.
The program may be evolving faster than we thought.
Or they're having trouble absorbing the educational directives.
They are machines, you idiot. They absorb whatever we put into them, correct?
Back in history, his friend Sonny shows up wasted without a note and vomits. So the teacher takes him out into the hallway, punches a hole in the locker, and force feeds him all of his drugs.
It's not funny, but
well,
yeah.
It's fantastically strange. It's not anything that anyone would do. I just did an episode, and yeah, I don't think the guest was excited about the film I chose. So, and I keep doing this where I'm like a teacher. So this teacher here, no, but we're talking about a movie, so it's a fantastically strange thing.
I gotta say, just in general, I was very pleasantly surprised. I didn't know what I was getting into.
Oh, good.
But it hit all the right buttons, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Okay, great. I'm so glad. My wife asked when the movie ended if I'd seen it before, which is always a bad sign. But yeah, I just think, his films just move at such a pace that, like, there's no wasted time. Like, if a conversation they can't be shorter. It's like, 8 words on to the next scene. Like, it's just, there's no lull where they play like, smooth music and someone falls in love. It's just like, no, just keep moving, go to the next thing.
And it also like follows like a structure that like somewhere deep down you want it to follow.
Right.
Just in the way they set up the scenes and the pace of the movie, like how they have, a scene for each of the teachers doing something awful just to like really show you what's going on with each one of these. Loved it.
I love that they're not like what you would think. Like, you would think they would all look like Patrick Kilpatrick's character, the PE teacher, but instead you have a variety. You have this, why make the guy look old? It's so weird.
Yeah.
But,
that was the weirdest one, but I liked it.
Yeah. It's his eyes when he starts talking in the classroom about controlling the situation. It's really insane. In this scene, the principal's office, the robo teachers are getting in trouble for the murders, and they're so smug. And I was like, how do you program smug in a robot? They're like, just so like, whatever.
Does anyone have an explanation?
Ingestion of 8,000 milligrams of ethyl dimethyl will do that.
Break the boy's neck? Pulverize his jaw?
The effects of habitual use are indeed disturbing.
Mr. Hardin, you beat that boy.
Only in self-defense, Miles. The filthy little punk was armed with a dangerous weapon.
And he was out of...
And Stacy Keach is eating a banana, one of my favorite moments in the movie.
Another amazing moment that need not be explained.
Yeah. And you can't find a lot of Stacy Keach gifs, I don't think, but the banana one, it's in there. If you
It's
ever,
in there?
yeah, it's in there.
Okay. Okay, that's
Someone's
good to
like,
know.
just the bite of the banana. It's gorgeous.
And like for the record, this is the person with the white you know,
Correct. Yep.
lenses and the mullet and
Yeah.
the banana.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet he made the choice for the banana too.
I think he made a lot of these choices.
Yeah, he had a lot of power here.
Yeah, and the director was just like, yeah, go for it.
Have another if it makes you feel any better.
All I wanted was a safe place for these kids to learn in.
Hey, right now you've got discipline for the students and security for the school.
Students are being beaten for minor infractions. 2 are already dead.
Keach and McDowell have dinner, which is another great scene, and Keach is drinking milk in a goblet, which is just another like,
Yes.
what are you? Okay, all right. You know, no one said no. They're just like, okay, yes, Mr. Keach. I got to think Malcolm McDowell, who's like nervously drinking a cocktail in the scene, and sees what Stacy Keach is doing, is just like, what is this movie?
That's one of those special moments that that just happened on set.
Yes,
it was probably not written.
No, I couldn't see it. McDowell seems to really care, but we don't find out what his path in education was, and we don't really know your path in education. So what was your beginning in your quest to be a teacher?
Let's see. I mean, originally, I honestly just needed a job at first. So I moved across the country. I'm originally from Virginia. So I came out here, I moved to Portland, and didn't really have any money. I had a friend who had worked at another, kind of therapeutic based school in the area. So they got me connected there, and I was doing a similar, role as a paraeducator, although it was like I was assigned one-on-one to a student, and a lot smaller, a lot, less funded of a school than the one I currently work for somehow. But so it was tough, but I really enjoyed it. And then I moved over to the school I'm at now, and was doing what you did for a while. I was a paraeducator for maybe 5 years before I went back to get my teaching degree. But I mean, by the time, really, it was like I had worked in those schools for so long, and I just felt like I had seen a lot of teachers that I just didn't feel were really serving the students very well.
Oh,
And
yeah.
You've seen it all. At a certain level, you're like,
we won't name names, but we know some of the same ones.
we know some of the same ones. So at some point you're like, all right, I either got to like do this right and do it the way I think it should be done, or just, find something else. So I it's not maybe a great story, but now I love it so much. So I'm glad I'm where I am now. So.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think we did see, I definitely saw a lot of people come through that just wanted a job, and some of them were teachers and some of them were paras, and never for very long. And that's the reality. But the truth of it is the people that stay, it's a very similar story to yours, where I saw people go from coaches to become teachers, to become outside supports for classrooms, to become administrators. It's pretty awesome. I saw people go back to school to become administrators, and from a para standpoint. So they just you just realize that, just like recognizing a teacher that's maybe burnt out or not in the right environment for them to be successful, to see the system and be like, I think I could help this if I was higher up or whatever.
Right.
So absolutely. I think it's great. And there was also a lot of support at the program that we both worked at for people, I think, to move up. I think it was encouraged for, people that saw that you were giving it all, and you or I are like-minded in that we were there for as long as we needed to be there. And, I think you rode the buses longer than anyone I know.
I did love, hey, with the buses, every bus at our school needs one adult, the bus driver and one adult, just to make sure things stay safe. And I just didn't have a car for my first 7 years in Portland, so I just needed a ride. So I just got it, so I would get picked up at my house by the school bus, and then we'd start our day, and that's how I would end my day as well. So but there's a beauty to riding that bus. I wouldn't do it.
That should be a movie, like just somebody choosing the most dangerous type of, because not that the buses were always dangerous, but there is a chaotic element that can happen, especially if the students feel they have no reason to listen to you whatsoever, which was all the time when I rode buses because I was on with a population that I did not oversee during the day.
And yes.
And you know, I had a kid try to undo the fire extinguisher. We had the bus pull over on the freeway. Sometimes you get those drivers that like, I won't move until you're quiet, and so the kids just scream so loud, and you're like, it doesn't work this way.
Yeah, the bus stories. That's just like that's a whole nother genre.
It is. We should have to do like Mad Max Fury Road or something for that. But speaking of wild punks, we see a cool punk club where people are fighting, dancing, and shooting guns. This is another scene that he reused from, not reused, but repurposed for class of 1984. So there's a very similar scene. And on the commentary, he's so excited to see it again. He's one of those directors that it seems like he falls in love with his own movie. So there's 20 minutes at a time where he doesn't say a single thing because he's just watching it, where you're like, I would like something, give me a tidbit or something that's
right.
And he's just like, oh, this looks really good. And you're like, okay, well, that happens.
Here's your good-looking brother, Mr. Cole.
Angel gets jumped into the Blackheart gang, and Cody gets beat out because why did he go there in the first place? He just shows up where they all are, and I don't know why that happens.
Another weird decision, along with the first opening scene. Yeah.
I mean, feel like we're going in order, but jumping all over the place because we gotta mention the shirt he's wearing in this movie. It's like got a weird neck collar situation, and then his jean jacket is about a foot too short. It's just like I mean, I lived through the 90s as a teenager, so I know how wild fashion could be in 1990 when it was made. But to aim for the future and be like, this is how they'll dress, I'm like, what?
It was one of the more distracting parts of the entire movie. You know, like I know like that punk sort of look was in at the time, and it's cool and I love it. But then this movie like added like a strangely like colorful
leggings.
Oregon Country Fair element to, or like Renaissance thing, you know what I mean? Like it was like Angel looked like a jester.
Yes.
You know, but it was so bizarre.
It was so bizarre. Yeah, when there's a part where Angel's not wearing a jacket, and it's just like a wrestling singlet, but with legs, like it and a belt. It's just so, I'm like, what is happening in this? It's
the entire school dresses like that too.
Yeah, yes.
The entire hundreds of students. Yeah.
It's so true. The next day, Christy has another pair of amazing earrings, and Cody, who has never changed his clothes yet, convinces her to hop on his motorbike because he's discovered all the teachers live together. So how many teachers do you live with?
I just myself. I don't live with anybody else.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Look at you moving up since the last time we talked about where you lived.
Yeah, I've lived in some strange places.
Yeah, there was somebody in sandwiches or pickles. Anyway, so they break in and only find WD-40 and orange canisters. Oh no, the teachers are carpooling and headed this way. They find one bra. And they're like, well, that's weird. And then they get their friend's necklace, but not before the teachers spot them very casually and setting chase.
But like the bra was the reason why they decided, okay, there's something weird going on here, because there weren't matching panties.
There's no furniture. There's no food.
Yes.
And they're like, wait a minute. Women wear matching underwear.
Yeah. And it was the only thing in the room. It was just on the floor.
It's like in a plastic crate.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just weird. And she's like, ladies have a lot of stuff. And he's like, something's not right here.
The entire apartment is empty.
Failing to yield at an intersection, exceeding the speed limit.
Not wearing a helmet or using proper hand signals.
Time for a little driver's ed.
Then this chase sequence, which is insane, where the teachers are listing off the driving infractions of him riding a motorcycle without a helmet and not signaling. And then he falls off his bike, luckily, because the car of the teachers drives straight off this road and into, I thought it was the sea, but it turns out it's a lake.
Okay.
And And later we see them walking out of the lake, and they had to wear wetsuits underneath their clothes for that scene because it was freezing cold. And they even had a hot tub just out of sight of the camera so that the actors could then hop in there. They're walking really slow in that scene too. So, I mean, I imagine they must have been so uncomfortable.
Do you know if most of the movie was shot in the Seattle area?
It was all shot there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So all that water was cold.
Yes, freezing cold. He says it numerous times in the commentary. Cody heads home and plays basketball with Angel, who has a heartwarming moment where he says, "If you weren't my brother, I'd say you were totally fucked in the head."
Where are you going?
Homework. Join me, could be fun.
If you weren't my brother, I'd say you were totally fucked in the head.
Other than that, you love me, right?
Right.
Same here.
Where I'm like, this is the bonding moment that we're getting. Yeah. But then, Angel stopped by the teachers on the way home, and he's thrown against the wall to death, basically. So.
Yeah. So that's when they kill Angel. Well, I guess we'll get to the next scene. I think I thought that the next death scene was Angel at first.
Oh, yeah. Next they abduct a pizza man, set him on fire, and throw him into the rival gang's palace, and then they blame the Blackhearts. So they're starting a gang war. And this is one of the many things that the director is lifting headlines. He's like, I heard that the LAPD were doing this, the Crips and the Bloods, and like, some of the other situations and things. He was just like amplifying it for the future, but all basing it in reality. Cody arrives and finds that Angel's been murdered, and someone wrote "high school war zone" on a basketball in blood. Is that the part where you thought he killed?
Well, I was talking about the one who had gotten set on fire.
Oh, yeah.
That was just a random pizza guy?
That's the he's from the Razorheads.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he's getting pizza for the gang, and the guy in the scene right before it, he's like, "Where's he gonna come back? He couldn't find his dick if he wasn't whatever." And then they throw him on fire through the window.
Yes.
A lot of language in this episode.
A lot of them.
The observation tech guys are worried because the teachers aren't in their rooms, and Keach is like, "Chill out." And he drinks, I think, half and half in this scene. I think he has coffee, but it's only half, I think, is what's happened. I could be wrong. I've only seen this like 7 or so times. The gang arrives at the wharf, and they're going to shoot at each other, and they begin just shooting, and it's just a big shootout. I guess there was tons of blanks involved, and it's none of it's CG at this point, so it's all, they had to keep constantly resetting and then shooting at everyone and blowing things up, which they were all doing.
Yeah.
Then the teachers arrive and decide to kill everyone, and it's insanity. My favorite is when the teacher reaches through the wall and breaks the guy completely in half.
Oh, wow. Yes. That scene was pretty wild.
Like, up until that point, they're just shooting him with machine guns. And then this guy just reaches through a wall and just snaps the dude in. And you're like, wait, what? Like, this just went up like an extra star for this film.
And he was 2 pieces of a body after
completely.
That. He wasn't just broken. He was actually torn in half.
And no blood on the teacher's sleeves or anything. It's just like I just clean broke him in half. Wow. The next day, Cody tells Christy, who has even more cool earrings.
Those teachers, they're after me.
Of course.
I don't know what the hell they are.
Of course they're after you. We broke into their house.
Listen to me. We just kicked the shit out of the Razorheads, and Harden was there. I saw him. I shot him. He didn't even go down.
Are you sure about this?
Yes, I'm sure about this. They're worse than the Razorheads. They cannot be human beings.
Because clearly they're wearing one bra and snapping people in half. Keach and McDowell have more back and forth about behaviors. McDowell says the teachers are at war with my students, and Leach says all teachers are. How do you feel about that sentiment? Are you at war with students?
I sadly, I would say there's probably a lot of teachers out there who feel that way.
You gotta bum me out about it.
I'm sorry. No, we're not at war. We're all on the same team.
Yeah, I could already tell from I should have put that question way further towards the beginning, because by now people are like, this guy sounds awesome, and it's like, damn it.
Once this program has been implemented, I'm afraid it can't be turned off. The bottom line is kill the enemy.
McDowell wants them shut down, so he gets his throat squished. It's a big one. He's gone now. That's sad. The Razorheads or Reznor Heads, Head Like a Hole is playing in the scene where Cody calls the head dude and demands a meeting. At the time of the filming, the director was going around to nightclubs in Seattle to see what kind of music kids were listening to and see what they could get for the soundtrack. And in one grunge club, there was a band playing, and he said, I like this music. And he went to the band and said, I want to put your music in my movie. And they said, $100 a song. And so that is why Nine Inch Nails music is in this movie.
Wow, really? What a deal.
Yeah.
What a deal.
1990, so they had released Down in It. I think Pretty Hate Machine was either just came out or about to come out. And he got these songs for $100 a pop. Like, that's crazy.
Oh my God. Probably, had he ever even heard of Nine Inch Nails?
No, he'd never heard of them. He just went into a club and was like, these guys sound hip. And like, that's what happened. I love that
it was perfect.
Yeah. It's also like when it happened, Sarah, my wife, just like looked up and she's like, what?
Yeah.
Because it's very different from the other music in the film.
Right.
Christy is at home and thinks Malcolm has come home, but it's Pam Grier and forces her to call Cody. And then Pam does Razorhead. I think it's Hector's voice.
Got your bitch right here, man. And if you ever want to see her again, show up at the school in an hour. If you don't, she's mine.
The Razorheads have her.
And then Cody figures out it's got to be the teachers because Hector hates school, which is well done. We get a peek back in the tech room and all the teachers have been murdered. All the killers. No, sorry. We get a peek back in the tech room and then all the tech guys have been murdered. They're like skinned and stuff. It's
yeah. It was a little over the top.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great, but it was odd.
It's like they went for the color contrast because the whole room was white. So like just make them all red. I don't know.
Hey, I was into it.
Yeah, it's perfect. Cody meets Hector and tells them that the teachers are, they're bad. So they rocket launch the gates open because rocket launchers are badass. And then they ride motorbikes through the halls because it's super cool.
The whole time.
Yeah.
This is like a huge scene.
Yes.
This like last thing. And they're just riding motorcycles through the school. Even when they're looking through the classrooms for these teachers, they're riding motorcycles and just very awkwardly weaving between the desks.
Yeah. I did that at the program that you currently work at, but with trikes on a number of times.
And I've been there too.
Yeah. And it I got to say, it felt pretty cool.
Oh, it's great. I mean, that's more of a Bobby's World thing, but I think I've been on a trike. I think we've both been on trikes together in that school.
Yeah, I think
there must have been a moment.
I'm sure there had to have been. Pam gets shot a bunch, but she's cool or hot because her hand melts off and it's a flamethrower.
Yeah, where did that come from?
That's pretty amazing. PE guy who then quickly gets into the groove and pulls his arm off, and it's a mini rocket launcher. It's a super cool effect. His arm is actually tied behind his back. The animatronics all worked and were done by Eric Allard, who did Short Circuit.
And it all looks good.
It all this arm effect looks so good.
It really does.
Yeah, and it's really it's really being controlled. I think the effects guys had like $1.5 million or something to do it, and so they really built the mechanics of it. None of it's CG.
Yeah.
And it really, the whole time I was watching it recently, I was just like, it looks better than I even remember it looking.
Yeah, I was impressed by all the practical effects, all the animatronics, just like that perfect mix of technology and goo.
And goo, always time. Goo. Yeah.
Lots of weird green goo that would come out of these teachers at different times.
Yeah, I don't know about the goo technology situation, but I love it. Always have. Mm-hmm. Cody finds Christy in a cage, but History shows up and yells, "Wanna rumble? Come on!" Okay, that's a pretty good line. They shoot him, and his arm becomes a crazy claw and drills into a dude's head. He almost gets Cody, but Cody says,
"Your history, Mr. Hardy."
Oozes his brain off, which is an amazing shot. Like, it looks
that whole
so
scene was
good.
great.
It's so good. Pam Grier sprays fire around, so they turn on all the gas in the science lab. She explodes, and Cody says,
Yes, I blew that course.
Yes, he does.
But then Hector shows up, and he says, where is she? And he goes, she's toast. It's like back-to-back one-liners. It's like no one even pauses in these movies. Is the only thing that I dislike about one-liners, because if I said that, it would be about 5 minutes of me looking at everybody like, do you see what I did? And everyone being like, yeah. Can we move on, please?
Well, I mean, the amount of one-liners just made me very happy in this movie overall.
Yeah. I know. You got to bring it back. It's so satisfying. PE guy shoots his rockets, and Cody hits him with a bus, which enters the school and explodes.
Yes.
But PE ain't over yet. He's just messed up. And for this part on, they always wanted to make you know that it's not an actor anymore. It's actually controlled by 10 puppeteers. So this whole final sequence of the PE teacher with half his head's missing and all that stuff, there's actually 10 people operating all the different parts that are moving together, which is pretty impressive. 1990.
Wow. Yeah.
You know.
And again, it looked pretty good.
I love it. I really do. I think it's super fun.
You're the humanitarian who decided to bring these teachers here.
That's right. $1 billion operation.
Well, tough shit, Bobby. Could use what's left of them for garbage cans.
Keach grabs Christy and shoots Hector, but PE guy punches through Keach. If I had to nitpick about the film, it would just be that like Stacy Keach gets killed. Why? And he dies so quickly. Like, he's so badass and memorable and weird, and I hope you dress as him next Halloween. But everyone's like, how many bananas have you eaten today? It's what the character does. I'm so sick. But then he just dies. Like, I don't even know why PE guy doesn't just shove him out of the, I don't know. It's just, for him to die that way.
Well, I mean, like the way that they, going back to sort of like the structure of this movie and movies like it, where now these teachers are dying in some sort of way that's tied to their, to the subject they teach.
What they teach.
Yeah, you kind of wanted him to die in a more, I wanted him to die in a more poetic way.
Stacy Keach?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. He's like this eloquent mastermind. So he's got a, something. But it's just his own monster that kills him. It's very Frankenstein-y. I get it. Yeah. As he chases Christy, Cody stabs him with a forklift and twists his head off and says,
"Have a nice stretch, coach."
Yeah, that was maybe one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, the above shot of this is greatly echoing the hanging scene in Class of 1984. It's another homage to his previous film.
I see the strange arrival from 1,000 miles away. If I stopped right where I stand and believed the lines on my hand, I would open up my fist and take the things I've missed come the day.
And then a cue badass song as the couple emerges from the flaming destruction into a new day in a town where I'm pretty sure everyone's dead. And that's the end.
That's the end, and that's like that's the Alice Cooper song too, I think, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't know. Maybe some Alice Cooper heads out there will be upset, but I think he wrote that song for the movie, is what it said in the ending credits. Is that what you noticed?
I believe that is the case. There was a period in the I'm sorry, Alice Cooper heads, but I'm gonna say mid to late 80s, early 90s, where it wasn't weird for Cooper to write a song for a horror movie. I think he did that for Monster Dog too, I think. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it was a weird time for metal, and so you get some really interesting things like what was it? It's not Bad Dudes, or maybe it is Baddest Dudes. There's a super group that did the song for Shocker, for Wes Craven's Shocker. I don't know if you ever saw that movie.
No, but I know I remember the I remember the art.
Yeah.
art.
Yeah.
Wasn't allowed to watch it.
Well, if you look up the song on YouTube, you'll find the name, and it's something like Battitudes. It's something where you're just like, that is a terrible name for a band, and then you see what it is, and it's like a metal supergroup that did this theme for Shocker. It's like
interesting. Okay.
I think there's a mini documentary as well, but it's really crazy. But final thoughts before we move into final questions. Anything you'd like to say to conclude on Class of 1999?
I mean, I'm honestly, Dirk, I was like, you are such a connoisseur of campy B movies that I didn't know how far down the rabbit hole you would send me in terms of something that I'd be able to like both laugh at and enjoy. And I gotta say, I would recommend this movie to a lot of people because it's just fun and it's fast paced. It's that hilarious mix of what somebody thinks the future might look like and just a lot of like Renaissance fair clothing. It's really great.
Yeah. Also in the commentary, I love like this era of filmmaking and this level because there's just things that happen that like nobody even really accounted for. Like the guy that was dressing the sets when they first drive into the town that's controlled by the Razorheads. There's a airplane fuselage that you can't even really see very well. It's in the first shot, I think, when they're driving down the road. But the guy dressing the set just found that in a junkyard and just put it in there. And then the director's like, cool, we'll have the kids living in it. They don't shoot it. You don't really see it. It's just like,
there's some nice details.
Yeah, it's real crazy. And I just love those things. And it's like the further you dig into these things, the more like you can just appreciate what all these people were trying to do to make something that was it's just fun. Like it's just, you know. I agree, and I'm glad. It's nice to have someone watch a film that they didn't totally dislike. That's not ever my goal to make people like the movies, but it is, you know, it's a weird, nice feeling.
Well, I told you right after it was over, I just started Class of 1984.
Right. And I knew you were watching it because you mentioned Michael J. Fox, and I was like, oh, he is watching it.
What a fun surprise.
Yes.
Husky Michael J. Fox. I don't know how old he was. Must have been like middle high school.
Yeah. Well, it's 1982. It's the year he started Family Ties. So, yeah, it's like kind of like the beginning of him really taking off.
Yeah.
You know. So, yeah, it's a good time. He's got an amazing bowl cut, if I remember correctly.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
All right, that brings us to final thoughts. These are questions just about yourself. Number one, what is your favorite thing about teaching?
Oh, favorite thing about teaching. Honestly, just like being able to hang out and laugh with kids, and it's just fun.
They
like,
say the darndest things, right?
I mean, you know, they do, and they really do
at
my school. As you know, they say things that I've never heard before and that will stick in my brain for the rest of my life, things that disturb me. Honestly, I just have fun. I like being in the classroom.
Yeah, that's great. One of my favorite stories of things a kid said to me was a kid that was playing in a room, and this kid had the vocabulary of like Eddie Murphy in the 80s or something. I mean, it was like more swear words than other words. And so it was a lot. He's a tiny kid too. And so it was amazing. And one day he was playing with a die cast, like a metal truck, and he just threw it up. He wasn't like looking where he threw it or whatever. And it caught me on the bone, right, you know, on the outside of your eye, just nailed the bone. And, you know, I stuck the position and was just like, you know, hey, you know, and the other paras were like, did you see that just hurt, you know, Dirk? I'm like, which names can I say? Oh, I can say my name. I've already said I was there. And the kid looks up at me, this sweet little face, and just goes, shut up, bitch. I was just like, all right, okay. Anyone want to take this teachable moment? Anybody? All right, we're gonna move on then. That's what's gonna happen.
See, if you can be present in that moment and if you can be stoic on the outside, but are also able to just be cracking up on the inside, that's the best.
That for me, that was always the thing. Like it wasn't a malicious intent or a situation. It wasn't that I was worried this kid was going to go harm other kids. I was standing in the wrong place at the right time, and maybe we shouldn't have metal trucks in the classroom. But we didn't after that. And, you just take it as it is.
Yeah.
You learn things like to not sit too close if you're going to say, hey, we might run out of tape, and have that kid almost knock you unconscious. It's another story. He was 8. Anyway, moving right along. What is a good day like for you as a teacher?
Well, let's see. I'd say in my classroom, a good day is a safe day.
Yeah.
So if there's a day where all the students were able to be safe, all of the students were able to manage themselves within the classroom and not have to leave the classroom to de-escalate. Not that that's a bad thing, but I would say that's usually at the end of the day when you're just debriefing. Safety is the biggest thing. So when you can have a totally safe day, which is few and far between in terms of 100% safety, but when that happens, it's like, it just feels really good.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And what is a bad day like? Can't even say it with a straight face because it's just like it's the opposite of the other thing, I guess.
Yeah, a bad day, especially like when you put it in as a spectrum, like a really truly bad day as opposed to maybe a day that's sort of typical and a lot of scary things might happen. A truly bad day, I think it probably involves like some sort of bodily fluid getting on you, or maybe getting a black eye. When
so funny because this is like an average day from the environment I worked at. I'm like, one bodily fluid.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. I got it.
Well, and so you and I worked in different types of classrooms within the same school. So you dealt with a lot more bodily fluids than I ever have had to. But yeah, just like when you feel like when you have to change your clothes but you can't. That's a bad day.
Sure. I've had that before. My daughter has had me tell her the story about the boy who grabbed my hair with poop in his hand numerous times. She thinks that's a hilarious story. And I'm like, well, I'm further enough away from it that it is quite funny. Yes. At the time, kind of a bummer. It hadn't even been lunch yet. Any advice for someone interested in teaching?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. Well, I'd say if you're gonna be getting into teaching students that are kind of more focused on, social emotional challenges, like I would say you have a real gut check because it can be intense. But advice, gosh, stick it out don't give up right away. Stick it out because it gets easier. I think as a teacher, I remember my first year was so tough. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, even though I'd been at the school in other positions for 5 or 6 years. But somebody told me that once you get to year 3, which is a lot of years, but once you get to year 3, and this I think probably goes for any kind of teaching, but is when you kind of find your stride, because I think it takes a while for anybody to get their structures and their routines in place, both academically or in terms of interventions or just safety plans that you have at your school if you work at a school like I do. But give yourself some patience, give yourself some time, because it does get smoother the more you put into it. Because that was my experience.
Yeah, that's excellent. Which brings us to the last question. And John, it's my favorite question. John, what are your dreams like?
Oh, God, my dreams. I don't at this point. I feel like I have so many dreams, and I used to have so many dreams about work when I first started working.
Oh yeah, those are called stress dreams.
Yes. And now I think I just have I don't know if it's that I just have so many of them that they just like dissolve into each other and I remember nothing. But these days, what are my dreams? You're talking about sleep dreams, right?
Yep.
Usually it has something to do with food, and it's usually delicious. So I'd say I have good dreams. And then it's just like different people from my past pop in and like have dinner with me. Those are the dreams that I remember most these days. I don't know why.
That's great.
That's what happens in my dreams often when I remember them.
Well, as long as it's not the stress streams, you're doing great then.
Yeah, I've eliminated most of those, I think.
That's perfect. And I did mention music in the beginning. When I first met you, you were doing music. You're still doing music at all? Is there any way people can find that? We kind of moved on.
Oh yeah. So I am recording. I'm always recording a lot of music. I'm sitting on 2 finished albums that I have not put out into the world, as well as 3 or 4 music videos that I've pieced together myself and with some friends. And a goal of mine is in the next few months to get at least one of those out, just under my name, all instrumental kind of ambient stuff, but kind of all composed on some sort of guitar, with surrounding synthy elements to round it off. But yeah, it's ethereal stuff.
Is there anywhere people would find it? Like when
you
you
know,
say put it out, would it just be
you
like
know,
RedTube, or where would you put that?
I think for me, for me, it would be a low key thing. I would probably just try to get it out on all the streaming platforms.
Just under John Walsh.
Just under John Walsh. It'll be on all the streaming platforms. I'll probably try to have some sort of release show here in Portland. Probably at the old house that I used to live at down the street, the 1234 house. Once shows start happening again. But nothing is out there at the moment.
All right. Well, I hope you get that out there. I want to hear what you've been up to. I don't know why you're sitting on it. What are you waiting for?
I'm just bad. I love making music and recording it, and then after that, it's just I feel good after I just record it.
You're like, I got it out. That's
yeah. I don't have the push to self-promote or make that happen. So that's something I'm working on.
All right. Well, yeah. I look forward to hearing it.
Thanks.
Well, John, thank you so much for watching Class of 99, and thank you for taking the time to share your story with me today.
Thanks so much for having me. This was a blast.
Absolutely. It's good to talk to you again. As always, I'm Dirk Marshall. This has been VHS. Head on over to vh-us.com. Send me something to read on the show, or you'll get detention. I'm kidding, but do it.